In today's video, we continue on with our NHL GM report card series. We're now making our way through the teams in the Metropolitan Division. Today, we analyze the moves from GM Kyle Dubas and the Pittsburgh Penguins. How will we grade his work? Is this team better? Can they compete? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we continue on with our NHL GM report card series, and today we're looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins and general manager Kyle Dubas in his second offseason now with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, last year he had made a big splash acquiring Erik Karlsson. The deal, you could say, didn't really work out to be the greatest. He thought that, obviously bringing in Karlsson was going to be a massive difference maker. And the Penguins didn't really have a great season. Karlsson wasn't terrible, but he certainly wasn't a 100-point defenseman that he was the year before in San Jose either. So obviously this offseason has been a little bit different. The players going in and out, not quite as extensive, not quite as high profile, but we'll take a look and see what we think of the move so far from Dubas and the Penguins. So we're going to start first with looking at the trades they made, then looking at the signings, analyzing additions, subtractions, and overall body of work here. So there's been two trades. One was good in my opinion, and one was not so good. The first one, they trade Riley Smith. They trade him to the New York Rangers, and they actually get a draft pick back, which was pretty good, a 2027 second rounder, and then there's a conditional fifth. Obviously, moving Riley Smith was important. It was pretty clear that he didn't really want to be there and that he really wasn't a great fit with the Penguins. I know when Vegas traded him to Pittsburgh, there was lots of word that he wasn't too thrilled about it. And, I think he understood getting moved because of the cap situation in Vegas. But Pittsburgh didn't really seem to be a place he was overly interested in going to. So there was that. I think he tried to make the best of it, and it just didn't work out. So there was no doubt that Dubas and the Penguins were going to try to move him with 1 year left on his contract somewhere else. They do that. The Rangers take Riley Smith, and they actually get a return. So to me, I'm totally okay with that trade. I think they did well. The other trade, though, they pick up Kevin Hayes from St. Louis. Now, they get an incentive here. They pick up a 2025 second rounder in its future consideration, so essentially nothing going back. So they get rid of the Riley Smith contract, and then they pick up Kevin Hayes. Is Kevin Hayes better than Riley Smith? I don't think so. You just changed one aging veteran for another aging veteran. Now, I understand you got an extra asset here. You didn't give up anything, so there is that. Kevin Hayes already has money retained on his contract from his time at the Philadelphia Flyers, so it's not a big cap hit, and you get an extra asset. Now, I know Kyle Dubas has made it known that he feels that, which is, I do agree with this, that the team is not well positioned for future because of the low stock of prospects and picks. So they're trying to, it's not, I guess you wouldn't really call it a rebuild, but they're retooling on the fly here. They're trying their best to make this as competitive as a team as possible while they still have their veteran superstars in Crosby, Malkin, Letang. Added Erik Karlsson last year, thought they could, really extend this window of being a real top team in the Eastern Conference, and it didn't work. I mean, before Karlsson came along, the last couple of years before that, they really were, a middling team. They were not a contender. Now, that window, to me, had already closed. So I get that they need to stockpile more for the future. They need to prepare for the next couple of years as these veterans that have been there at superstar level are going to eventually be done. So you get a second rounder, but I don't know, that cap space could have been put to better use. I really don't like the Kevin Hayes trade. I do not see him being a good fit there. He can play center. When he played at Philly, I guess his last run there was getting top line minutes because of the weaker team, and he was putting up some decent numbers. Went to St. Louis, obviously after a year in St. Louis. They were happy to move on from him. So I don't know. I just don't understand the logic. I mean, I I know you need more picks and prospects, but I don't know if this is the way to do it. So I don't like that trade at all. We have one more trade that came late this offseason, which wasn't originally completed when I started working on this video. I did delay posting it for a few days because we've had some other news items pop up here in the last little bit here. But we have another trade for Cody Glass joining the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kyle Dubas made a deal with Nashville acquiring Glass as well as 2 draft picks. It's a 2025 third rounder and a 2026 sixth rounder in exchange for a prospect named Jordan Fresca, who's played 2 years pro, mostly in the East Coast League. So that trade I will give Dubas credit for. That's pretty good. Glass may not be a player that has a major impact on this team, but he's young enough and has potential and will have an opportunity to get a better role in Pittsburgh, and it could be one of those low-risk, high-reward scenarios. Maybe Glass finds another gear and takes off. Maybe he doesn't. At the end of the day, you got him for 1 year at $2.5 million. Cheap risk that way. And you get 2 extra draft picks, which you desperately need on top of that. So in my opinion, you give up nothing of substance. You get a player who's a project, but you get a couple extra picks, and it's not a lot of money on the contract and the cap. So to me, it's well worth it in that sense. Moving on to the signings. They have a lot of signings that are short-term, league minimum, 2-way contracts. A bunch of these are players that will be like minor leaguers or potential call-up options. But they signed former first-rounder Sammy Poulin to a 2-year contract extension, league minimum. It's a 2-way deal. Valtteri Puustinen gets 2 years at league minimum. They signed Jack Sanavani for 3 years at league minimum. John Gruden gets 2 years, 2-way deal. Alex Nedeljkovic gets a 2-year contract, $2.5 million. That's pretty good. Nedeljkovic was pretty good for them last year. I'm a little bit surprised he stayed. I thought he might seek, a more of a starting role or more of a 1A, 1B type of role where he could maybe play more. But I guess, at the same time, if things progress like they have, even though Tristan Jarry's got the bigger contract, and, because of that, Jarry will be given every opportunity, but maybe he'll end up getting more of the net if he continues to outplay him like he did last year. So I think keeping Nedeljkovic was a good move. They signed Boko Imama, formerly of Ottawa, 1 year league minimum. He'll be a minor leaguer. He can drop the gloves and be an energy guy for them, and he can play fourth line minutes if you need a call-up option, but he probably won't make the roster at a training camp. They got Mac Hollowell, 1 year league minimum. Emil Benstrom gets a 1 year deal. Ryan Shea, 1 year. Anthony Beauvillier comes in as a free agent, 1 year, $1.25 million. I don't mind that. Beauvillier's had success in the past, not at a high level, but this is a 1 year kind of a prove-it contract type of deal. I mean, he's bounced around a bit since he left the Islanders. Of course, he was included in that Bo Horvat trade. Didn't really work too long in Vancouver, ended up in Chicago. And now then he ended up going from Chicago to Nashville, ended up back with Barry Trotz, of course, who knew him well from his time with the Islanders, and now he's a Penguin. So we'll see. Beauvillier very well could be given a pretty good chance in that top 9. We'll see if he can make the most of it. But as I said, it's not a lot of money or a lot of term. Blake Lizotte comes over from Los Angeles. He gets a 2-year deal at $1.85. That feels a little bit rich to me. Lazotte's primarily been a fourth-line player. I guess in Pittsburgh, maybe they see him as getting a chance to play more third-line minutes, and maybe he will. If he gets to play consistently in the third line and can produce, then that contract will not be too bad. But if he does end up playing fourth line with regularity, then that's not good. But I don't know. To me, I'm not really sure that I have a lot of confidence in Blake Lizotte moving up in the lineup. But time will tell. He does forecheck hard. He skates well. So we'll see. Matt Grzelcyk comes over on a 1 year free agent contract, formerly of the Bruins. 1 year at $2.75 million. Obviously, it's a low-risk contract. He is somebody who can be a good puck-moving defenseman and can skate well. So he will certainly join that back end, which certainly needs work for sure. Of course, they also got Sebastian Aho, formerly of the Islanders. He gets a 2-year league minimum contract as an extra depth defenseman as well. And they also signed former first rounder from last year, Braden Yager, gets his 3-year rookie ELC. So those are all your signings. So there's really nothing there that sticks out as being bad. I do like the Nedeljkovic signing. I like the Beauvillier signing, low risk. Not a big fan of Blake Lizotte. That's just my take. Most of these other players will either be there on league minimum deals or they'll be in the minors. So looking at the in and out addition subtractions here for Pittsburgh coming into the lineup this year, you've got Kevin Hayes, who I said, not fond of that move. Anthony Beauvillier comes over. Don't mind that on a cheap, 1-year contract. You got Blake Lizotte. I'm not fond of the contract. I don't mind the player, but I think he's going to be elevated too much and was paid a little bit too much. You got Matt Grzelcyk. Again, I don't have any issue with Grzelcyk. I think he'll be a decent player for them. But with, what they already have in their lineup, how much is he going to play? And you've already got Ryan Graves, who needs to bounce back. Obviously, he fell out of favor in Boston. Is there too much risk on that back end? I don't know. You get Sebastian Aho comes in, some extra depth. And then, of course, Cody Glass, who was just recently acquired there from Nashville, who should be able to get a role, hopefully within their top 9. I suggest they'd be better off playing him on the wing based on what we've seen so far. I think that's going to be better for him, but we will see where things go on that front. Going out, leaving the team, Jeff Carter retires. You get Riley Smith gets moved, Jensen Harkins, and Pierre-Olivier Joseph. So Joseph leaves in the back end. I know he's been there for some time. It was pretty clear that they didn't have a ton of confidence in him. He gets to go to St. Louis after not being qualified as an RFA by the Penguins, and gets to join his brother Matthew, who was, of course, traded there from the Senators. So good for the Joseph brothers to be able to play together. I do like that aspect of it. But at the end of the day, they don't really get to bring in much of anything that's a big help. The back end, obviously, you don't want to bring in somebody who's going to play too many minutes because you've already got Carlson and you've got Letang. Ryan Graves is there. You're hoping Ryan Graves can bounce back. Marcus Pettersson. So you really just need some depth, right? And Grzelcyk will be an upgrade on Joseph. I'll give him that. So, and then you get Aho can be a 6'7" guy. So I guess you could make an argument that the blue line is better. But they really weren't going to be doing anything too drastic there. Consider the amount of minutes that Carlson and Letang eat up, and then you get Pettersson, Graves. Anything that was going to be going in or out was going to have a small role. Goaltending ends up being the same after bringing back Nedeljkovic. The forward group, essentially, Smith out, Hayes in, Carter retires, you get Beauvillier, add Lizotte. So, are they better? You could make an argument that they're mildly better. But at the same time, they really didn't find a way to inject any significant youth into this lineup. Anthony Beauvillier is on the younger side of it, sure, mid-20s, but, that's about it. The Crosby extension is not done yet, and that's holding up other considerations amongst the team as well. I'm not really sure I'm going to fault Dubas too much for that, because from what we've heard, it sounds like Sidney's had a hard time deciding how long he wants to sign for. That seems to be the holdup, not so much on the Penguin side. To me, you had an opportunity, you didn't really go out, and maybe they tried and they just didn't find a deal or couldn't get it done. But this team is not better. This team is for the last couple of years has not really been a playoff team, and they're getting older and they're slowing down, and they have to find a way to balance out, bringing in some better depth and getting younger and faster at the same time to kind of make this team better for the future. Like at this point, if Crosby and Malkin are done or leave the team in the next couple of years, there's not a lot of optimism that they're going to be remotely competitive when they're gone. Like look how they finished last year, and Crosby had a phenomenal season. Malkin had a poor season, in my opinion. But Crosby put this team on his back, and he could not get it over the hump into the playoffs. So if Sid starts to decline, or he does leave in the next couple of years, and they don't really have much coming up here, this team is going to get ugly in a couple of years. Kyle Dubas, to me, has got his work cut out for him, and I'm not sure that he's done really enough. So if for this, this report card I'm giving GMs are really just for this offseason, but even going back over the course of the last year, it's been a failure. This team in Pittsburgh is not better. There's been so little change except for the blockbuster deal with Carlson last year, and they still couldn't get to the point. The power play was atrocious. So it's I don't know. It's not for lack of trying in some cases, but some of these moves are just weird. Like I don't like the Hayes deal. I don't like the Lizotte deal. I didn't like the Tristan Jarry signing last year. The Carlson trade was interesting, but it hasn't really worked. Now, as far as the grade for Dubas, I honestly, when I first started working on this video, I had his grade figured out, and then the Glass trade came through late after the fact, which I had to kind of do some editing and kind of add a couple pieces in here in this video. I was going to give him a D. To be honest, I was going to give, not just because his name is Dubas, but a D for Dubas for his off-season work felt appropriate. But I think the Cody Glass trade, it's not like it's an amazing deal, but it's a good deal. And to me, it'll bring it up a little bit. I'll upgrade him to a C-, because the Glass trade was, it gives him a couple of extra assets, and he's taking a chance on a low-risk, potential good player who's a former first-rounder. I don't mind that. Like guys like Glass and Beauvillier coming in to try to find a spot and ignite themselves, I have no issues with that. It's just some of the other, veteran guys, like they just really, overall, I'm not convinced this is a better team than they were last year. Meanwhile, everybody around them has gotten, not everybody, but most teams has gotten better by a fair margin. And I think they're going to have a real hard time keeping up. After all those years of going for it, year after year after year after year, not thinking about the future, eventually that catches up to you, and I understand why they did that, and a lot of that's not necessarily on Dubas. To me, he inherited quite a mess. Ron Hextall's tenure there was not good, and it's been a while, really. Like I said, it's been since they won the Cup in 2017 that it's been a steady decline. We're 2024 now. You get 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. Like it's 7 years removed. And this team is, just slowly ticking away, getting worse. And I don't see it improving anytime soon. So let me know what you think in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. Stay tuned for all the other teams and my report cards for all the other GMs still to come. Check out the other videos for all the Atlantic Division teams and the Devils, which were posted yesterday in the Metro Division. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.